Okay, we are recording. I was going to say we are live, but we're not live. We're recording.
Not yet. Not
Not
live yet.
yet. One day.
One day.
Okay, Eric. Here we are. Our very own podcast, just what the world needs. Another two guys talking.
Another two white guys talking.
Yeah, we have to bring race into it. That's true. It's 2024. It's current year.
Hey, within the first minute,
True.
disclaimers.
Yeah, we're really big on that subject, the subject of race. It's really fascinating to us. Um, yeah. So why? So we're being kind of self-deprecating about the fact now that we're two more guys starting a podcast in an era where there's already a glut of people talking on the internet. Why are we doing it? What are we doing here? Why would anyone choose to listen to us as opposed to all the millions and trillions of hours of available entertainment that there is?
Yeah, I thought about that earlier today since you posed that question. And the first thing that came to mind was I'm not hoping to advertise this as an outbound thing. And by that I mean, um, I don't care how many people listen to this. I just want the right people to hear it.
Hmm.
So it's not so much that I want other people to hear my viewpoints and my opinions and my thought processes. It's more like I want people who think similarly to reach out as a result of this being on the internet.
Me too. And I believe that'll happen. Um, Personally, I think well, for one, I kind of just like it makes me nervous to just speak and have it being recorded because I do some recordings of myself, and anytime I do them, I will like I'll record. I'll like come up with the lines in my head, and then I'll record, and then I'll do it over and over again. So like trying to get it just right. So this is kind of an interesting. For one, this is a distinct challenge, and that's always something worth doing. Usually, I mean, I guess, but what I kind of feel like, I mean, you know me. A lot of people who might be watching this probably know to an extent that I'm kind of a media hound, and I enjoy commentators and thinkers and such. But a lot of the ones I've been historically listening to over the past couple of years have kind of I was the reason they were intriguing to me at first is because a lot of them were just like regular guys who lived regular lives and then like commentated on the side. And as the business has kind of grown, they've become like professional commentators, and they don't feel like regular guys anymore. And I feel like a lot of other people are probably in that same boat where they're like, everything I used to like because it was organic has kind of just become a product. And so maybe there's like a void in people's hearts that we can fill. We can fill their voids.
There may be, although I thought about this earlier too, in that since more and more of our lives is being broadcast online through different media and different channels, there's this contentization of life, or there's this process whereby more and more of our personal and internal experiences are being broadcast to the public. And if it catches, people usually mostly take that opportunity to monetize it, right? And by monetizing it, they're beholden to the demands of their audience and the demands of the market that they choose to work in. And so I think that changes how these commentators act and speak and express themselves. So I personally don't want nor plan nor intend for this to be a commercial project in any way, because I feel like that will limit my ability to speak freely.
Interesting. Because I don't know if I completely. I don't know if I completely agree in that I don't want it to be commercial in any way. I mean, I don't want to take money from Lockheed Martin or Pfizer, you know? But I've kind of learned through my own marketing of my own business that almost like I used to feel a lot more sleazy trying to sell people things. But I don't know. I feel like we talked about this before, but the more I actually kind of just incorporate that into my personality, I feel like people kind of appreciate. Well, for one, it enables when I'm able to sell to people that I know, it enables me to live a very like organic lifestyle where I don't have to like try and pander to audiences that I'm imagining what they want. I can just have like the people around me who are appreciative of what I have and what I do. I'm not sure where I'm going with this, but
I think I know where you're going with this.
I guess I'm gonna change. What I wanted to say also was, oh yeah, okay. So another thing I wanted to say is in regards to why do this is also another thing that I see a lot of in terms of podcasts is the chasing the current thing. Like all this podcasts, like what's the hot topic of the day? Like what are the Kardashians up to? Like what's blowing up on the Twitter? What's big in the Twitterverse? It's like we got to talk about that. And there's a shockingly tiny amount of people talking about things that I think are like what, I mean, not that they don't exist, but you know, what podcasts are there talking about like well, I was gonna say like great literature, but there's probably like a bunch of great literature podcasts that I'm just too stupid to know about. So I'm catching myself, but I kind of want to try and talk about subjects that I think are timeless, but also through the lens of like the personal. Like I know that part of the reason I'm choosing to do this with you specifically is because there's no, when I talk to you, there's no like facade, there's no posturing. It's like I know that I'm talking to a wholly realized person, and there's not really any secrets between us. And I like that, and I think people like that, and I think people will like that about us. Is that, you know, a lot of times when they're listening to presenters and whatnot, they're listening to a persona, someone who's like, oh, I'm the right wing guy, and I'm gonna, you know, here I am gonna dunk on those progressives, or I'm you know, the progressive guy, and I'm gonna dunk on corporations and talk about, and it's like ultimately you can listen to these people for hours and hours and hours and hours, and some of them are interesting. I'm not saying they're not, but you don't necessarily feel like you learn anything about the people involved. And I kind of feel like maybe I'm just narcissistically, you know, what's the word for, I forgot the word for like people who like get off on like showing off, exhibitionist. Maybe I'm just kind of like narcissistically exhibitionist, but I don't think that, I mean, there's something to that. That's one of the reasons we read like great novels and great stories and stuff, is because they delve into the personal lives of the characters. And I feel like there's not that much in the podcast space. There's a lot of, yo, I'm the sports guy, and here I am talking about NBA highlights and sports talk, and then there's like makeup talk, and then there's like girl talk, and then there's not like Zach talk. You know, who is Zach? And who is Eric? It's all persona-y.
Well, I agree with that sentiment, and I think that these personas arise due to what I was talking about earlier, where there's this huge impulse and incentive to monetize content.
Yeah.
Right? So these people adopt these personas because that's what's good for their audience, right? Be they sports consumers, makeup wearers, girls looking for the latest sex tips or whatever. But they're all a result of that like commercial relationship. And so I'd like to hear more about your intention as far as making this a commercial pursuit or a branding pursuit or otherwise, because I think what I heard you saying was that you don't intend to make this explicitly like a revenue producing project, but maybe this is something that facilitates your overall
people
brand.
knowing me, my ego to an extent.
Your ego. Sure.
And maybe we could talk about that, because that's a conversation we've had before. The whole ego, that's an aside. Maybe we'll get to that later. But here's a hot take from Sweet Danger Zach is, I don't think ego is the worst thing in the world. I don't think like all the hype around like dissolve the ego and let go of your ego. And I know what the intention is there, but I think if you actually kind of dissect it, it's kind of a silly statement. It's just kind of it's like it's a very heady, it's almost like a heady catchphrase that like if you're in a heady circle and you say that, people will think you're smart or something. But you don't want to have no ego. But you should get back to what you were saying. Sorry.
No, I mirror that idea as well, and I think there's the private and there's the public life, and technology's moving the latter to the former, right? And it's like, how can this podcast be authentic and nuanced and real, like you said, and maybe support commercial pursuits, but in a way that doesn't distort how we appear and how we speak? You know, how do you not become a persona in this process? You know.
Oh, that's an interesting question. Can you not become a persona in this process? I don't know if I have an answer to that. Do you?
Like, what personas are we maybe embodying already?
Right, because we're already not exactly. This isn't exactly the conversation we would have if we were just on the phone together and there's no recording happening. So does that make us personas already?
I mean, I don't feel like I'm expressing myself that differently than a phone conversation, but I think if and when we get feedback from listeners, that's going to change things, right? It's like,
yeah.
Oh, I know.
I'm mostly just referring to that there's certain words we would say that we won't be able to say.
Yeah, certainly. You know. Less profanity, because we have class, which is something else that
elegance.
We talked about recently.
Yeah. Okay. So I guess I was thinking of this question as well, and I think I sort of answered it as far as if you were to ask it to me, but now I'm going to ask it to you. So we've talked about why we're doing this at all. Why now? I think I've sort of to an extent expressed why I'm doing this with you specifically.
Yeah.
So I'm going to ask that in return. Why are you doing this with me? Why? You could do this with any number of people. Why Sweet Danger Zach?
Yeah. I so first, I don't think I could do this with any number of people, because I don't think everybody is as willing as you to put themselves out there and make the time to have a conversation and set up the camera and the microphone and the
The
software.
camera manufactured in 1996.
Yeah,
I
I
promise
don't
I'll
know
get a good one
if you stick
one
your
of
left
these
hand
days.
out
Zach,
all the way left, it
the
turns
the
around.
professional photographer using a
That's
webcam.
the jankiest webcam.
Yeah, made in
No,
19.
that's great.
Yeah. Anyway,
Um, and I think that you think for yourself, and you express it well. So those are two very different traits that some people have. One of them, right? Some people think for themselves, but they're kind of in their own world, or they don't have the words or the framework to make sense of it verbally. Um, and some people just talk and talk, and they're not really saying anything. But you you do both, and you do them well. And
I
I
both
think,
talk and don't say anything.
yeah, right. No, you have your own um, conception of the world, and it's very nuanced, and um, it's open, right? Like you're not you've withheld the temptation to align yourself with um, political camps and social stereotypes and
Clicks.
uh, like you yourself, and so that's something I aspire to be as well. And so that's why I'd want to do this with you and not anyone else.
Yeah. I just
Yeah.
noticed something very interesting as you were saying that. Look at our backgrounds. I
Yeah.
think like there's me and there's all this happening here, and there's you and there's black
The most
mystery.
anonymous black
Just
box in
yeah.
an undisclosed location, soundproofed.
Are you
Um,
did you put in like soundproofing? Did you like do that?
well, I'm not at home,
Oh,
so
okay. Oh, that's
yeah.
right. Okay, you're in the studio.
My location might change.
Oh yeah, at
Um,
every episode. I think that's kind of as people get to know us, I think they'll find that is no coincidence that our two environments are distinctly that way and I think part of the reason again I'm choosing to do this with you is we have that like yin yang energy. You're move around a lot and you own very little and you I feel like your world is more embodied. Maybe I don't know, more or less comparatively, but like it feels like I'm always kind of making an effort to itemize my experience and like
mm,
create objects around my experience, and yours is just like embodied within you. And that I think that makes for a cool contrast. I think that makes for a lot of learning opportunity, a lot of sharing, and yeah, I don't know. You think?
I agree. I admire a lot of parts of your life in that, you're able to like make a space beautiful over a period of years, like I've never done that. And like look at your background, that's all
Mm-hmm.
whereas I just haven't stayed in a place long enough to make it mine.
Yeah,
So,
but then
yeah.
like if it but the reason I value you so much is because like you move around, and for instance, we can talk about how I visited you in Mexico. It's a little over a year ago, I guess. Um,
It was.
Eric,
Wow.
for those of you listening, Eric, he's just the kind of guy that up and moves to Mexico for 2 years. Was it 3 years?
Yeah, for two.
Just cause. Why?
Um, well, what really pushed me to leave the United States was the lockdowns and the closures that happened during COVID, and
That's
it
right.
was,
It's so bizarre how like that was everything. That was the whole world, and now it's like, oh, I forgot.
yeah, you couldn't go out. There was
Mm-hmm.
no open mic on Monday night. There was no calm, velvety jazz bar to visit on
Mm-hmm.
Saturday with friends, and um, that was during winter when I decided I couldn't be constrained to a cold climate and not be able to move around,
That
go
is,
outside.
I think that should be your. If there's any statement that you've ever made that just exemplifies you, it's couldn't be constrained.
Yeah, physically, like not gonna be kept in a box. And so Mexico, and you came
Yeah,
bravely.
and so what I was talking about is like that's one of the reasons why like it's nice to have each other is because where I'm like nesting over here, I know Eric's doing something adventurous, and then he's like, yeah, but come along for the ride, and then I can go visit you in Mexico and take all these amazing pictures, and then print the pictures and put them on my wall, and then when people come over, I say they go, wow, what is that? And I say, well, that's Mexico, and let me tell you about my friend Eric who went and lived there, and the reason I have these pictures, and the whole kind of it's like the story is able to be told that because of all the players involved making all those putting all those pieces together.
You've helped me realize that photos are like windows, you know, windows into memories and experiences and
There's
places.
literally a photo of a window.
Yeah.
You see that?
Yeah, right there. Um, and yeah, so by like nesting, as you put it, you're able to like have a space to showcase all of these different windows or portals, which also reminds me, this might be a little tangential, but of in Dan Simmons' Hyperion
Ooh.
cantos.
Oh.
Um,
Wait, if Davis is listening, he's read those books, so I hope that he is, and he can anyway continue.
I
But
suggest, I recommend and implore all listeners read those four books because they're just masterful.
mm-hmm,
And
mm-hmm. Look at that smile on his face. He like
just
that. You got to read Hyperion.
so in this novel, there is a proposed technology called the Farcaster, which is like a doorway that instantaneously teleports you to another place across the cosmos.
Mm-hmm.
And so um, one of the premises of the book was that the extremely rich would build homes with doors that were Farcaster
Mm-hmm.
portals,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah,
so people would have homes on
on
dozens
seven
of
different
planets.
planets. Yeah, 10,
Yeah,
12, 20 different planets. Martin Solenus being he was the poet who was like a very almost like an Elvis like character. He was extravagant. He was opulent, and he reveled in it. Um, yeah, and I remember the description of his home was so striking, and it talked about you'd walk through a room, and it would be a room that existed over a waterfall on some jungle world, and there would be like a grand piano in the corner, and it was overlooking, and then you'd walked through a door, and then you'd be in uh, like a desert, you'd be in the bathroom, but the bathroom would have windows like overlooking sand dunes on some desert
desert.
world, and this was
Yeah.
the case for all like 30 rooms in the house. They all existed in different worlds.
That's what I see when I look at your background, you know.
Oh shit, that's so flattering. Oh man, that's like the coolest thing I've ever heard.
And so you like can do that with objects and maybe like tokens, in your space. And then I feel like I physically go to different places to get that like those windows. Um, I'd like to more learn more about what you do and how you do it, but um, nonetheless.
Well, maybe that we can accomplish that via this, and then as well the audience can absorb that, we're simultaneously learning from each other, and the audience is learning from us, and we're learning from the audience. I hope.
I think so. And that topic sounds like you could call it home building, or I mean nesting's okay, but that makes me think of birds and twigs. But like home building, is like
Design.
design. Yeah, it is design, right? It's
Yeah, yeah.
interior design, but I don't think any interior designers would like suggest doing what you do, because like you have a richness of like experience and skill with photography and
Hmm.
framing and like layout, whereas
And
I
scavenging,
think
really, like
yeah,
largely, and it's almost everything I have is scavenged, is things I find at Goodwill or Facebook Marketplace or this or that. Um, that's mainly, I think, why. Well, I wouldn't say you're totally correct when you say interior designers. There aren't any interior designers, or you didn't say that explicitly, but I would say when I was 19, I lived in Chicago with a design student, and I think he inspired me to a great extent. What I do, like a lot of what he did was kind of like scavenging and such, but definitely I have a distinct flavor. I try to.
your style.
That's all I got.
I got my
Not no
style.
substance, so I gotta
Nope,
I gotta bank on the style.
it's all show and no substance.
In fact, I think like in future, I'm gonna start trying to incorporate my extravagant wardrobe like every episode. And when I have a camera that records in more than 144p, I'm gonna start.
One frame every 44
Yeah,
seconds.
I'm gonna start
Yeah,
dressing up for the episodes. Yeah, what frames? Seconds per frame. It's not frames per second. It's seconds per frame.
seconds per frame.
Ah, yeah. Um, is there anything else you'd like to talk about? I mean, we've been talking for how long have we been talking for?
I don't know.
Do you think that's a sufficient introduction, or is there
Um,
something else that we should address?
I mean, there are a couple different topics I can think of right now, but I think for an intro, this is sufficient, and introductions are best when they're
Concise.
shorter. Yeah.
Brevity is the soul of wit.
That is,
He knows how many
yeah,
times I've said that. He knows how many times I've said that. But if you keep listening, you're probably going to hear it 1,000 more times to the viewers out there.
brevity is the soul of
That
wit.
was William Shakespeare. William Shakespeare said brevity is the soul of wit, and I'm sure he heard it from someone else as well, because that's how it works. We take things in and we spit them out.
That would be the giant bumper sticker on the back of the car, which is this podcast.
Hmm. Cumtemplations. This podcast.
Contemplate.
Cumtemplations.
As as we're talking too, I'm noticing that our video frames are not side by side, which is totally okay because your background's much more interesting than mine, but something to note next time.
Mine are side by side, and I'm
Oh, they
recording.
are, and you're recording, so we're
And,
good.
and, and I'm recording, so we're good.
Okay.
All right, well, maybe we should have like some signature sign-off thing that we do. Isn't that a cool concept?
It is.
But
Um,
I guess we probably shouldn't it should be something thoughtful that we don't just make up on the spot right now.
I think it will just show up organically.
I hope so.
I think so.
I trust you.
In
Well,
other words, yeah, I think that's it.
well then, until next time,
Thank
contemplate,
you.
contemplate often and contemplate hard.
We'll see you next time.
Bye.